Commander's Log, Galactic Date, 4729911120. I still remember looking down at their primitive satellites with a sense of disdain. Their technology seemed so far behind ours, it was almost laughable. Their ships didn't even register in our tactical assessments, barely worth a mention. It was like watching children play with toys, I said as much to Lieutenant Max Carter during our first reconnaissance mission. Our long-range scanners had picked up their orbital defense platforms. Pathetic. They had basic kinetic weapons, nuclear warheads, can you believe it? And energy shields that wouldn't even stop an Azorthian mining V, let alone our warships. At that point, humans had colonized only 3 planets beyond their solar system. 3. And we? We held dominion over thousands of worlds. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne's briefing still echoes in my mind. The Earth system will fall within 2 standard rotations. Their defenses are weak, their fleet is scattered. Victory is inevitable. The Zarthan Empire had defeated 17 species before humanity. None of them survived more than a few cycles. Our battle cruisers were the size of their cities. Our weapons could shatter planets, and our shields were impervious to supernovas. We were gods among insects. How terribly mistaken we were. I remember the day we picked up their first substantial military movement. A small fleet, which we assumed to be their capital ships, emerged from behind their moon. We laughed. Their largest vessel was barely a quarter the size of our smallest destroyer. The ships moved with what we thought was clumsy coordination, their engines leaving plasma trails that our targeting systems could track from light years away. We sent our preliminary invasion report to Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne during our final briefing. Class 3 civilization, minimal resistance expected, standard conquest protocol authorized. How wrong we were, how foolishly wrong. I still watch the recording now and then, a cruel reminder of our own arrogance. There I am, standing at attention, nodding as our tactical officers dismissed Earth's defenses as primitive and beneath our concern. We even debated whether to send our entire invasion fleet or just a small task force, to make it a bit sporting. The humans must have detected us, but they showed no signs of fear. No large-scale mobilization, no frantic diplomatic missions, nothing, just the usual routine. We mistook their calmness for either resignation or, even worse, ignorance about the fate awaiting them. Perhaps they'll surrender immediately, Lieutenant Max Carter suggested during our final observation shift. Save us the trouble of a full invasion. I agreed with him. The Zarthan Empire was unbeatable after all. Our victory was as certain as the rising of the 3 suns over our home world. We had already written up their terms of surrender, prepared the occupation protocols, and selected the governors for their conquered worlds. If only we had known what was coming. If only we had examined those primitive defense platforms more closely, or paid more attention to their seemingly clumsy fleet movements. If only we had questioned why such an inferior species remained so unperturbed in the face of our overwhelming power. But we didn't. We reported back to the invasion fleet that Earth was ripe for conquest. We gave the signal to attack, sealing our fate. The last transmission I sent before everything fell apart still haunts me. Earth's defenses analyzed and classified. Resistance minimal. Glory to the Empire. Glory to the Empire. Indeed, within hours, we would come to understand the true meaning of power. And it would come from a human vessel that would forever alter the course of galactic history. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start with the day everything changed. The day we learned that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that looks like prey. Our first move was a textbook Zorthian strategy. We dispatched a diplomatic vessel with our standard terms of surrender, expecting the humans to recognize the futility of resistance. The ship, Mercy's Dawn, approached Earth's defense perimeter, broadcasting peaceful signals. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne's message was simple. Submit to Zarthan rule, and your species will be spared unnecessary suffering. Resist and face extinction. The human response came from Admiral Emily Hart. Even now I remember her words, spoken with a smile that should have alerted us to something wrong. We appreciate your generous offer. Perhaps we can discuss this in person. We're sending coordinates for a neutral meeting point. The coordinates led us to a space station orbiting Mars. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne himself decided to attend, bringing our most powerful battlecruiser, Thunder's Wrath, to demonstrate our might. The ship was 12 kilometers long, armed with planet-cracking weapons. Its mere presence should have been enough to force their compliance. The humans, however, sent just one ship, a small vessel they called the Defiant. It looked like a pleasure yacht next to Thunder's wrath. We didn't even bother to raise shields. That was our first mistake. The diplomatic meeting lasted precisely 4 minutes. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne delivered his ultimatum. Admiral Emily Hart listened calmly, then said something that made Thorne pause. "Before you continue threatening us, Commander, you might want to check your ship." Thunder's wrath was already dead in space. No alarms, no warnings, no explosions. Just a complete systems failure. Our mighty battlecruiser, the pride of the Zarthan fleet, was disabled by a ship we had dismissed as harmless. "That's impossible," Thorne stammered, his primary heart racing. "Our systems are quantum encrypted. No one can—" "Quantum encryption?" Admiral Emily Hart chuckled. "How quaint. We cracked that technology centuries ago. We've just been keeping it quiet. You know how it is, don't want to spoil the surprise. The humans had shields we couldn't detect, weapons we couldn't see, and technology we couldn't comprehend, all hidden behind a facade of primitive satellites and clumsy ships. While we were watching them, they had been studying us, learning our weaknesses, and preparing their defenses. This is your chance to leave," Admiral Emily Hart said, standing to end the meeting. "Take your fleet and go. We're not interested in conquest or revenge. We just want to be left alone." But Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne had never faced defeat in his 300 cycles of service. His pride wouldn't allow him to retreat. "You've revealed your deception too early, Admiral. Now that we know your true capabilities, we'll adjust our strategy accordingly." Admiral Emily Hart's demeanor shifted then, from diplomatic politeness to something that sent a chill down my spine. "No, Commander," she said. "You haven't seen our true capabilities. Not even close. But I'm afraid you're about to—" She was right. We had only seen the surface of what they were capable of. The real show of force was yet to come. The Zarian invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace in waves. 10,000 ships, each armed with weapons capable of reducing planets to ash. Our formation was flawless, a deadly dance honed over centuries of conquest. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne commanded the assault from our new flagship, Vengeance Eternal. After the embarrassment with Thunder's wrath, the orders were clear. "Target their outlying colonies first," Thorne commanded. "Show them the cost of defiance." The first human colony fell swiftly. New Eden, they called it. Our ships descended like a storm of metal, weapons blazing. The orbital defenses fell apart under our attack. The onslaught was relentless, but something felt off. The resistance was weak, disorganized. "Victory is ours," Lieutenant Max Carter declared as New Eden's defenses went dark, just the first of many to fall. 2 more colonies quickly followed, Haven and Sanctuary, each conquest simpler than the last. With every victory, our confidence grew. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne broadcasted our triumphs across all frequencies, certain that Earth would quake in fear. But then, we encountered Outpost Delta. At first glance, it seemed like just another minor colony. Our scans revealed minimal defenses and a small population, nothing that could challenge us. We dispatched just 50 ships led by Commander Olivia Reed aboard the Relentless Dawn. It seemed like a routine mission, but then the trap was sprung. Hundreds of human vessels materialized from nowhere, not the slow, clumsy ships we had observed earlier, but sleek, deadly warships. They moved like liquid metal, their hulls pulsing with energy patterns beyond our comprehension. "Impossible," I muttered. Commander Olivia Reed's final transmission came through the channels, crackling with panic. "They're inside our shields. How are they inside our—" Then the transmission cut off. All 50 Zarthan ships vanished in synchronized explosions, burning like artificial stars. That was when we encountered Earth's main fleet. They emerged from the shadow of a gas giant, led by a vessel that dwarfed anything we'd ever seen. Admiral Emily Hart's voice echoed through our command frequencies. "I believe we declined your generous offer of surrender. Now, let us extend one of our own." The human fleet moved with unnerving precision. Their formations shifted seamlessly, adapting to our every maneuver before we could even react. Our weapons found no targets, and our shields offered no protection. Their technology wasn't just advanced, it defied all logic. "Full attack formation!" Thorne shouted, his voice cracking with anger. "Unleash everything! Show these primitives our true power! 9,000 Zarthan ships against 300 human vessels. This should have been a slaughter." It was, but not in the way we expected. Their smaller ships darted through our formations, turning our attacks against each other. Friendly fire caused more damage than their weapons ever could. Every tactic we had honed over centuries of warfare proved utterly useless. They're hurting us, I realized, watching the tactical display. Like predators toying with prey, the human fleet split our forces, isolating our most powerful ships and forcing us into a kill zone. Classic hunting tactics, executed on a galactic scale. We weren't conquerors anymore, we were prey. Lieutenant Max Carter's voice trembled as he reported, "Commander, 2,000 ships lost, 3,000, 5,000. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne stood frozen, watching helplessly as his once mighty armada crumbled. His pride wouldn't allow him to retreat, even as defeat became inevitable. "Launch the planet killers," he barked. "If we can't have their worlds, no one will." But before we could unleash our doomsday weapons, before we could take our final act of vengeance, something emerged from hyperspace that made every being in the Zarthan fleet freeze in terror. The real battle hadn't even begun. Earth's dreadnought had arrived. When Earth's dreadnought materialized from hyperspace, our sensors first mistook it for a small moon. The vessel stretched 25 kilometers from bow to stern, composed of materials that absorbed all scanning attempts. This wasn't merely a warship. It was humanity's ultimate weapon of destruction. Captain Nathan Miller's voice thundered across all frequencies. "This is the TSS Reckoning. You've been warned. You've been offered mercy. Time's up." The Reckoning's hull split open like a blooming flower, revealing weapon systems that defied reason. Energy readings shot off our scales. Even Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne fell silent, watching as the monstrosity approached. "By the three suns," Lieutenant Max Carter whispered, "one of their weapon ports is larger than our flagship." The dreadnought moved with an eerie grace, its massive form gliding through space with precision. Our fleet, once the pride of the Zarthan Empire, now seemed like toys before this titan of human engineering. The psychological impact was immediate. Panic spread through our ranks as officers realized the true scale of our mistake. "Hold formation!" Thorne screamed, but his voice cracked. Fear, an emotion unknown to most Zarthans, flooded our veins. The Reckoning's first shot didn't target our ships. Instead, a beam of pure white energy shot out, ripping through space itself. A wound in reality appeared, sucking in debris and disabling our vessels. "They've weaponized space-time," our science officer exclaimed. "Status report," Thorne demanded. "Impossible to calculate," our officer replied. "Their technology, it's not just advanced, it's beyond our understanding. The laws of physics seem optional to them." The tactical display revealed the Reckoning's true capabilities. Its hull contained thousands of smaller ships, each one a match for our best cruisers. But worse than its weapons was the creeping realization: humanity had always possessed this power. They had watched us, studied us, and allowed us to believe we were the superior force. The Reckoning's arrival exposed the truth. We weren't conquerors facing primitives. We were primitives who had mistaken humanity's patience for weakness. "All ships, full retreat!" Thorne finally ordered, his pride shattered. But it was too late. The Reckoning's main weapon powered up, its energy signature visible to the naked eye. The last thing I remember before losing consciousness was Lieutenant Max Carter's words. They weren't hiding their technology, they were trying not to frighten us. When I regained consciousness, the battle had descended into utter chaos. The Reckoning hung in space like an artificial sun, its weapon ports glowing with contained power. Our remaining ships scattered in panic, all semblance of formation shattered. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne, in his desperation, made the worst tactical decision possible. "All ships, concentrate fire on the dreadnought. Ignore the smaller vessels." 10,000 years of Zarthan military doctrine rendered obsolete in moments. While we focused all our efforts on the Reckoning, Admiral Emily Hart's fleet struck from multiple angles. Their smaller ships phased through our formations, their weapons slicing through our supposedly impenetrable shields as if they didn't exist. "Sir," Lieutenant Max Carter reported, his voice trembling, "they're not just winning, they're teaching us a lesson." He was right. Each human attack demonstrated a flaw in our strategy. They turned our ships against one another, used our own tactics to predict our movements, exploited every weakness in our once perfect military machine. The Reckoning's presence wasn't just a symbol of power, it was psychological warfare. Its massive form dominated space, a constant reminder of humanity's true strength. Every time our ships tried to regroup, its weapons would tear us apart again, hurting us like cattle. Captain Nathan Miller's voice echoed through space again. "Your ships are equipped with quantum drives capable of instant retreat. Use them now." This is your last warning. But Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne had lost all reason. Launch the forbidden weapons, release the void spheres. Our most terrible weapons, forbidden by galactic law, capable of erasing entire solar systems. We launched 12 of them toward the human fleet. Admiral Emily Hart's laugh sent a chill down my spine. Really? You think we haven't seen these before? The Reckoning's hull rippled, and 12 precise beams lanced out, intercepting each void sphere. Instead of detonating, the weapons simply disappeared. Humanity had mastered the technology to contain and redirect our most powerful weapons. Tactical analysis, I demanded, trying to make sense of their strategy. The display revealed a pattern so simple, it was almost painful to watch. The humans had studied every battle we'd fought over the last 1,000 years. They knew our tactics better than we did. Their fleet movements weren't just superior, they were evolutionary. Each attack built upon the last, adapting to our responses before we even made them. The humans hadn't just prepared for this battle. They had simulated the entire conflict countless times, analyzing every possible outcome. Sir, Lieutenant Max Carter reported, they're broadcasting tactical advice to our ships, teaching us how to retreat safely. They're educating us during combat. The humans' true strategic brilliance didn't lie in superior technology or overwhelming firepower. It was their mastery of psychology. They understood exactly how to break our will to fight. The Reckoning showed this by carefully dismantling our largest ships, not by obliterating them, but by surgically disabling their weapon systems. They rendered us harmless with minimal casualties, a demonstration of mercy that shamed us more than any defeat. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne watched helplessly as his once formidable fleet was reduced to derelict hulks. All ships, fight to the last, for the glory of the Empire. But the response didn't come from the humans. It came from our own captains. One by one, they broke formation, retreating to avoid pointless death. The mighty Zarthan Empire, which had never known defeat, was now not only facing military destruction, but a complete psychological collapse. Commander, Max Carter spoke quietly, they're not just beating us. They're rewriting the entire playbook on space warfare. Everything we thought we knew is wrong. The final blow came when the Reckoning revealed why it was named a dreadnought. Its hull split open completely, exposing a cavernous interior large enough to accommodate our entire remaining fleet. The message was unmistakable. They could have ended this battle at any time. Admiral Emily Hart's final transmission encapsulated humanity's philosophy. War isn't about who has the biggest weapons, it's about knowing when not to use them. Remember this lesson. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorne's last order crackled through the static-filled channels. Execute Protocol Omega. All remaining ships converge on my position. Protocol Omega was our civilization's final gambit. By linking our ships' cores together, we could create an explosion capable of destroying an entire solar system. 2,000 surviving Zarthan ships began to maneuver into formation, their reactors going critical. This is suicide, I transmitted to Thorne. The humans have shown mercy. Mercy is weakness, Thorne interrupted. If we die, we take them down with us. The remaining Zarthan ships formed a tight sphere, energy crackling between them. Our sensors detected the Reckoning slowly moving into position, but instead of attacking, it simply waited. Captain Nathan Miller's voice resonated across the channels, full of an almost paternal disappointment. Don't make us do this. Thorne initiated the countdown, our reactors synchronized, the power building toward detonation. The explosion would obliterate everything within a light year, including Earth's fleet. 5 minutes to critical mass, Lieutenant Max Carter announced, his voice sounding hollow. But the Reckoning's response shattered everything we knew about physics. The massive ship generated a containment field around our entire fleet. Not to trap us, but to shield the surrounding space from the impending detonation. They had turned our final act of desperation into a controlled exhibition of their power. 3 minutes, Max Carter counted. Admiral Emily Hart's transmission reached every ship simultaneously. Interesting strategy. Let me show you ours. The Reckoning's hull reconfigured, revealing layers of technology that made our most advanced systems look like primitive relics. Thousands of smaller ships emerged, each one targeting a specific Zarthan vessel, not to destroy, but to save. 1 minute, Max Carter whispered. The human ships struck with precise surgical coordination. Each one latched onto a Zarthan ship, interfacing with our systems. They weren't attacking, They were preventing our reactors from overloading, saving us from our own destructive desperation. 30 seconds. The reckoning itself powered up its main weapon, a beam of pure white energy, which enveloped Supreme Commander Vincent Thorn's flagship. When the energy beam faded, the ship remained intact, but completely powerless. In mere seconds, they had neutralized our entire suicide gambit without a single casualty. 10 seconds. 5. Max Carter counted, his voice shaking. Countdown terminated. His voice cracked. They've locked out all our systems. We can't even self-destruct. Admiral Emily Hart's final transmission marked the end of the Zarthan Empire's military dominance. Now, about those surrender terms. Our conditions are simple. You're going to learn to play nice with others. The negotiation frequencies opened. The war was over. Humanity had defeated us so decisively that they could dictate the terms of our surrender, all while saving us from our own self-destruction. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorn's last transmission encapsulated the greatest lesson our civilization had learned. We thought we were gods among insects. We never considered that we might have been the insects all along. 10 years have passed since the Battle of Earth. I sit here in my observation post, now part of a joint human-Zarthan peacekeeping force. The peace treaty changed every facet of our society, but not in the ways we had feared. The humans could have enslaved us. They could have dismantled our empire, ravaging our worlds, or worse. Instead, they offered partnership. The terms were simple. Share knowledge, respect boundaries, and learn to coexist. The Reckoning still patrols the borders of human space, a constant reminder of their power. But now we understand its true purpose. It's not a weapon of war, but a shield, protecting younger civilizations from threats they're not yet capable of confronting. Admiral Emily Hart became the first Joint Fleet Commander, teaching us humanity's philosophy of power. The strongest species, she often says, isn't the one that can destroy the most. It's the one that chooses not to. We learned that humanity had encountered other aggressive empires before us. Each time they restrained themselves, using minimal force and trying to teach rather than destroy. Their technology, far beyond ours, remained hidden not out of fear but out of consideration. They didn't want to terrify younger species or disrupt their natural development. Supreme Commander Vincent Thorn now serves as an instructor at the Joint Military Academy on Mars. His lectures on the fallacy of technological superiority are required reading for both species. The human students call him the Humbled One, a title he bears with newfound wisdom. Lieutenant Max Carter now leads a cultural exchange program. He studies human history, particularly their entertainment media and fiction. Those stories warned us, he told me recently. Thousands of stories about humans being underestimated about their capacity for both destruction and mercy. We should have watched their movies before trying to conquer them. The most profound changes came in our understanding of human nature. Their diplomatic core revealed that Earth had nearly destroyed itself multiple times before reaching the stars. They had learned the cost of arrogance firsthand and developed their power through bitter experience. Our scientists still struggle to understand their technology: quantum tunneling, space-time manipulation, dimensional phasing. Humanity mastered these concepts centuries ago, but they share their knowledge patiently, helping us grow without overwhelming us. The Zarthan Empire is gone, replaced by the Galactic Cooperative. Our worlds now prosper through trade, not conquest. Our military serves as peacekeepers, not invaders. We've learned to measure strength not by the ability to take life, but by the wisdom to preserve it. Sometimes, during quiet shifts at my observation post, I watch Earth's cities sparkle in the dark. Their lights remind me of stars, each one representing millions of beings we once considered inferior. Now, we know better. Yesterday, a young Zarthan cadet asked me what lesson we should learn from our defeat. I told her what Supreme Commander Vincent Thorn once said. The humans didn't just defeat us, they made us better. These days, my reports are very different from those I used to write. I used to mock Earth's defenses, but now they talk of cooperation, progress, and hope. The humans were never prey pretending to be predators. They were wise teachers, patiently waiting for students who could truly learn. The Reckoning still looms in orbit, its massive presence casting shadows across the stars. But now when I gaze at it, I no longer feel fear. Instead, I feel a deep sense of gratitude. For sometimes, the greatest triumph isn't in conquering, but in averting the next war. Commander Aaron West, signing off. Glory not to the Empire, but to understanding.